Hey everybody, welcome to What's Up Wednesday. For my little video blog this week, I'd like to talk about an article I read that really addresses this topic of ageism, which is a category of discrimination or bullying. And this particular article was in Forbes magazine, and it talks about a lawsuit against Mattel. Mattel is one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world, and it addresses an issue of ageism, and it's titled Ageism at its worst. So it talks a little bit about bullying in the workplace, and then addresses a lawsuit by a person named Bernard Grisez, Grisez. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but looks like Grisez to me. And Grisez was he was a permatemp, meaning he wasn't an employee of Mattel. He was a temp, but he worked for Mattel for over 2 decades. And during his work history, he alleges that he was repeatedly passed over for promotions and opportunities, as well as permanent employment based on his age. Now, Mattel offered promotions and permanent employment to less experienced people, many of whom Grisez had actually trained. And over time, it got worse. People they would issue ageist taunts at him and harassment, ask him when he was going to retire, comment on his age, call him an old man, ask him where his walker was, post hurtful images around the office. And eventually he went to HR and he complained about the issues that were going on. And over the course of HR's investigation, they made a determination, however they made the determination, and ultimately he was released from his temp assignment. That contract was terminated, and as a result, he was terminated and filed a claim. So this isn't funny stuff. And age is one of those categories: age, race, sexual orientation, religion. There's so many different categories of harassment, bullying, and discrimination in the workplace, and age is just one that I think is in the forefront. Most of our baby boomers are retired or retiring now, and I'm Gen X, and my category or age group is beginning to retire already. I'm seeing more and more of my friends retiring, and age is an issue because so much of our workplace is people over 50 and over 60. And I think it's really important that we're hyper aware of all kinds of discrimination, but specifically things around age. And examples of reasons I think people are discriminated when it comes to age are, in some cases, they may move a little bit more intentionally, and they may not be as technically savvy as younger generations who were born with with a tablet in their hands and a smartphone. And obviously it takes us a little bit longer, but there's so many reasons that people get discriminated against based on age. And this article identified, 5 ways to kind of address this with your people in the field. And I think the number one thing, and that's what Forbes says is, or the person who wrote this article, is educate your employees around ageism. Address the issue, make sure they understand that this is a category that fits under the greater umbrella of discrimination. Number 2, know where your employees stand. Make sure they understand that, whether somebody is young or old, they're a contributor within the organization. It needs to be very clear that the organization doesn't care a thing about how old any one employee may be. They say conduct a complete age equity audit and review the internal and external policies, processes, and messaging. That's another thing that they recommend doing. Avoid using generation labels such as I just did: baby boomer, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then also sponsor an age equity ERG, which is a program. So, here's some ideas around how to address this topic of age discrimination. And I think it can be addressed on a broader scale, and you can address just discrimination in general. But I think age needs to be pointed out because so often gender, religion, political preferences, sexuality, these are issues where people are discriminated and there's bullying in the workplace. And I've worked in a lot of workplaces and I've always seen bullying to some extent. And when we think of bullying, we think about physical pushing, shoving, taunting, making fun of people. But bullying can be much less than that. It can be, hitting somebody up on social media, posting a funny picture, making a joke. It can be very subtle. It can be anything. And bullying is really the interpretation of the person being bullied more than the person doing it. So keep that in mind as well. Hopefully this is helpful, and we will see you next Wednesday.